Whether he chooses to do it or not, I think will be the true testament to his conviction.
Oh, snap. It's about to get real. So this is a recent interview that was conducted on KITCO on March 30th, I believe, between Frank Giustra, who is a big-time investor in the precious metals market and is known for his position on gold. And then you also have him basically calling out Michael Saylor. And Michael Saylor is a large, well-known investor of Bitcoin. There is a constant debate. Many of you within the stacking community are aware of what is better to own, Bitcoin or gold. And a lot of people who really believe in gold, they still have that kind of mentality. If you cannot hold it, you do not own it. Bitcoin is a man-made Ponzi scheme. And then you've got on the other, and gold is a tested 5,000-year money, store of wealth. And then you have the other individuals who are saying, Bitcoin is here to stay. You've got all these large institutions that are pouring money into Bitcoin. There's companies that are accepting Bitcoin now as a way of payment. You're seeing Bitcoin going from, $4,000 this year all the way up to $60,000. So there's a lot more wealth to be made in speculating on Bitcoin. So there's two sides of this argument. And so this was actually interesting. I kind of found it a little bit entertaining, as much as you can find this stuff to be entertaining, right? It's kind of dry, but it's basically, one school of thought, big into gold, calling out somebody who is big into Bitcoin. And I see merit in both sides of the argument. And I do believe what Frank Giustra is saying here about gold. I agree with a lot of the stuff that he says, but I do own some Bitcoin, not a lot, because I do, also kind of see some merit in the argument that the people about gold are saying. But at the same time, I don't want to be wrong. Don't want to miss out on Bitcoin. So I do own some. But anyway, I figured this was interesting, and I'm going to pause it from time to time and give you my reaction.
Joining me today is none other than Frank Giustra. He is a man who needs no further introduction in the metals and mining space. He spent most of his career studying gold and learning about the precious metals, and he's built his fortune, his empire, on the metals and mining industry. He's a philanthropist, mining executive, financier. Frank, welcome back to KITCO. It's been a while since we've had you. Always a pleasure.
It has been a while. Thanks, David. Nice to be back.
Well, it's always nice to have you. We're going to be talking about the buzz you've generated on social media today. And, this is something that I don't see every day in my time as an anchor at KITCO. This is something that I really wanted to discuss with you. You've been actively and publicly challenging Michael Saylor, CEO of MicroStrategy, to a debate on gold versus Bitcoin.
It's like Conor McGregor calling somebody out in the UFC.
Show the audience this tweet that you've made a few weeks back. I'm just going to read it. Spent last few weeks attempting to challenge Michael Saylor to a friendly debate, gold versus Bitcoin, on a respected media outlet. All right. So first of all, Frank, you're a busy guy. You've got a lot to handle on your plate. Why are you taking time out of your day to challenge Michael Saylor? First, I'm assuming you've never met the guy, right?
No, never met him. Never met him. But I have spent the last few months, as I started to look into Bitcoin over the last sort of 6 months, I started to look at many of his interviews, and I've watched a lot. I'm not sure I've watched all of them. And I'm willing to be proven wrong, but my sense is that his strategy is a very clever and calculated strategy of only doing interviews with friendly interviewers. I don't think he's been challenged on his thesis in any meaningful fashion yet. And I think that because this debate has become so heated, especially on social media, the gold guys, the Bitcoin guys, I think that the investors out there would benefit greatly from this debate.
I mean, I know this isn't typically something that I would want to sit down and watch, but to be honest with you, that would actually be a debate that I would like to see, because there would be a lot of moments and takeaways from it where you could kind of see both sides of the argument. So that's something that I would like to see.
There's a lot to be learned. I think it would be very informative for everybody. And just to be clear, I am not a Bitcoin hater. I just think that his thesis on gold and Bitcoin needs to be explored. And I think I would love to have the opportunity to explore some of the statements that he's making when he does these interviews.
Well, to be fair, Frank, there's a lot of people out there who may not have a very good understanding on gold, who may have said potentially inaccurate things factually, or maybe their outlook doesn't make sense. So why Michael Saylor in particular? He's one of many.
He is one of many, but I think he has, and I'm just guessing, and I've listened to other Bitcoin promoters, people that love to get out there and talk about Bitcoin. There's a few of them out there, 4 or 5 that I followed. I think out of all of them, Michael has had the most traction. I think that he is really influencing the investment community, and he is getting traction. He's a very smart guy. He's doing a great job of selling the story, his thesis, by painting an Italian sunset, using language which is a mixture of poetry and science that is bordering on the evangelical.
Okay.
And that's great. And he is having, I think, the most impact out of all the folks out there promoting the Bitcoin thesis. So I've listened to his arguments, and I want to discuss a lot of what he's saying. Some make sense. I think Bitcoin does have some similarities to gold, but I think there's some very major differences.
Yeah.
And it's important to understand that you have to understand those differences to know where Bitcoin and or gold fits in any portfolio, because all asset classes serve a different purpose in a portfolio. And I think that if you don't understand that distinction, you're going to make your investment for the wrong reasons.
Okay. And to that point, though, that is why I own a little Bitcoin. Like I said, I don't have a lot, but I do have some. And so, diversification is important. So why not own a little bit of Bitcoin? And I know what he's trying to say here. That you should be educated before you are putting all of your eggs in one particular basket. But let's see what else.
Where you and I spoke offline about making the about a hashtag on Twitter, Saylor versus Giustra. We're going to try to make that trend. So that's the hashtag, guys. Use that. It's a great hashtag you came up. So
he's basically being a fight promoter here, that David Lin.
I have to take partial credit for that.
Thank you. No, but I think that's, I'm trying to, I can see that he does not want to have this conversation.
Yeah, that was my last question. Has he responded at all? I mean, you've been trying this for weeks.
From what I understand, because I don't have direct contact to him, but from what I understand, he was presented with the case. He asked all about me and asked for a bunch of material on who I am and what I've done and what I've spoken about in the past and what I've written about in the past. And then the minute he got that, he went completely silent. And you know what? My issue.
He's basically calling them chicken.
I don't want to do this debate is getting very heated, and there's a lot of passion on both sides of the argument that's getting kind of crazy out there. And I don't want to have the type of conversation where we're lobbing rhetorical hand grenades at each other. I want to have a conversation about the facts, just the facts. No Italian sunset. Just let's discuss your thesis, and let me just ask you a few questions about it.
Well, Michael's got a big following on social media and in the investment community. Aren't you afraid, or I don't know if afraid is a backward, but aren't you concerned about backlash from the Bitcoin community? Is that something that you've thought about?
Oh, it's already started on social media. You should follow my Twitter account.
I do follow your Twitter.
And some of it's hilarious. I mean, and I think there's one central theme that seems to be coming from the Bitcoin fans out there that are obviously Michael Saylor followers, is that there's no need to have this debate. Just go out there, buy Bitcoin, and get over it, number one. Just buy it and get over it. You've lost your argument already. Or let let it just settle where it settles. Let people do what they want, and Bitcoin goes up and gold goes down. They'll be proven right down the road.
Right.
Which is fine, and I can understand that. Yeah, that's one approach, but I think there's been so many things said about gold by Michael Saylor mostly and others that I think it needs some clarification. I think investors will really appreciate to get this clarification.
Sure. All right. We're not going to reveal too much of your strategy and what you want to talk about. We'll save that for the actual debate sometime down the line. But I do want to bring up these tweets that Saylor has made, and I'd like you to address them. So, first of all, this one: shareholder value creation comes from holding an appreciating asset, BTC, over a long period of time. It is logical for every firm, both public and private, in the Bitcoin industry to do the same thing Tesla is doing. So he's, as you're aware, Tesla has bought $1.5 billion of gold, Bitcoin rather. And the argument here is that if every company, the S&P 500, does the same thing, well, Bitcoin's market cap is going to increase exponentially. And that's what he's advocating for. Take a look at this tweet here. You've actually retweeted this and you've commented on this. Following the light of the sun, we left the old world. What is the old world? Is he referring to gold?
Yes, which he calls the analog world. Yeah, that's what he's referring to.
All right. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well,
is gold the analog world?
He's using some very flowery language out there. It sounds great. I mean, but I don't know what it means. And
I'm going to fast forward this part of the interview. Like I said, in the description, there's going to be a link to this. I'm going to go over here to the Bitcoin superior to gold question that he's being asked.
Would, challenge or question or dig deeper in?
Yeah, I do have one more question on this, and then I'll let you go because again, don't go into too much if you don't want to. But how would you be prepared to address this point? Saylor has repeatedly said on various media that Bitcoin is superior to gold, and one thing he has brought up, which is correct, is that gold's price has lagged behind Bitcoin this year. Objectively, that's just what it is. But he said that that's because gold is inferior to Bitcoin, and so all the gold investors are moving into Bitcoin. Would you be prepared to address that? You don't have to give your answer now, but would you have a response to that?
Yeah, my response is that let's address the gold price performance this year. I think it has a lot more to do with the steepening of the yield curve than it has to do with Bitcoin. Right. But having said that, I do believe that Bitcoin has eaten a bit into that marginal buyer of what would have been a marginal buyer of gold or Bitcoin is going into Bitcoin. The speculators that...
He's basically saying how the speculators and usual buyers of gold, they are now kind of moving into Bitcoin as opposed to they would have typically purchased gold. He looks very surprised right there.
Are looking for gold features, are going into, a lot of them are going to Bitcoin. This is absolutely true. And it is having obviously had a very positive effect on Bitcoin, and it is having somewhat of a negative effect on gold. But I don't think any of the major gold investors around the world are making that switch yet.
All right.
I don't see that.
Final words to our audience, Frank, to those who are watching right now and wondering when and why and how this debate's happening. What would you say to the people watching?
I am saying that if...
Well, we'll see if this ends up happening, right? Most likely, it probably won't, but you never know, right? You never know. Anyway, let me know your thoughts down below. Are you guys into Bitcoin right now or other crypto? Are you still of the mindset that if you do not hold it, you do not own it? I'm just curious as to what all of you are buying. I'm kind of still in the camp of precious metals, although I do see some merit in owning some crypto. You don't want to be kind of left behind. So there's definitely fear of missing out. Anyway, comment down below. Let us all know what it is that you are buying. And I just want to quickly thank these elite channel supporters. And if you haven't become a channel member, please check out the awesome perks and join today. With that, I'm the Stacking Stormtrooper. Check out these videos. Until next time, long live the Empire.